Hello and welcome to the Best of Tri-State podcast, where we interview exceptional people and leaders in the tri-state area, learn more about them and what makes them unique. Today we have Carrie Gentry. She has been working for the Center of Addiction Recovery, or CAR, as the Director of Drug Education and Addiction Awareness. CAR offers multiple inpatient and outpatient services for substance abuse recovery. Also on a personal note, Carrie and I have been friends for a long time. I've known Carrie since I was a little kid. She's really good friends with my mom, so we have that kind of history as well. So, Carrie, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Um, so the first question, and I always like to start on a similar note, and I'm always really curious about this, but what made you decide to begin working with CAR and join that organization?
Well, it actually, I was looking to get out of education. I was teaching middle school, and I was just at that place of I felt like I needed a pivot. And during the time that I was looking to pivot, I was applying for other jobs, of course. But Nicole Frilds and I had connected because we had a mutual friend that was struggling. And so we had worked together to get them into recovery, as well as a family member too. So it was all kind of like a little step towards this job. And I don't consider this a job really. This is more of it's a mission field is what I do. But Nicole had this job opening and she was like, I think you'd be great. I really want you to come work for me. So she kept recruiting me, like working on me, and finally was like, come work for, basically just point blank just said, come work for me. And she said, you always said you wanted to make an impact. Here's your chance. And I was like, okay, you're right, And so I've been with Warm or the Center for Addiction Recovery for going on 2 years. And I, more, the longer that I'm here, the more my eyes are open to one, the struggles that people go through, but then two, just understanding that all people really need is just love and understanding, and they need the right resources. And so that's what I'm here to do, is to plug them into those.
That's great. That's great. You talk about this call to serve, and because you said it's not really a job, it's something that I get to serve and help this community that you love so much there in Henderson. And you also talked about that kind of personal connection you have to um, substance abuse and addiction recovery. And that's why I'm super excited about today, is because I as well, and I think a lot of people, I think what people don't realize is it happens a lot more than we realize. But I've had some personal connection with substance abuse and addiction recovery. Even myself, haven't had alcohol in 2.5 years, so super proud of that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and yeah, thanks. And had the kind of saw the the negative impacts, and kind of saw the trajectory that I was on with using that substance. So I'm personally super excited to spotlight your all services. I know personally have felt the impact of those services with myself and then other individuals that I've come in contact with. So really excited to spotlight what you all do. Because I guarantee you there's a lot of people that are listening to this that have never heard about CAR and the services that you all provide. So at CAR, now that we've kind of got your intro and kind of learned about why you joined, the common issues that you all encounter at CAR, what does that look like?
So we're mainly what our main thing is. We have our Warm, which is Women's Addiction Recovery Manor, and we also have MARC, Men's Addiction Recovery Campus, and that's in Bowling Green. Those Both of those entities are long-term addiction recovery. We offer long-term addiction recovery services there.
So
Um,
just for clarification, Warm is in Henderson,
Henderson.
Mark is in Bowling Green.
Yes, and we're
Right.
getting ready to open a co-ed site as well that we're super proud of. It's going to be in Litchfield, and it's called LARC. Don't ask me what it stands for. I just know it's in Litchfield. It might be Litchfield Addiction Recovery Campus. I'm not really sure, but anyway, we offer long-term services for men or women who are struggling with substance use disorder. that we have found in what we do as far as offering services, when people are really struggling with the disease of addiction, it takes 6 months or more to really rehabilitate that person, because it's not just the substance that they're struggling with, but it's a lot of life choices, it's behaviors, it's mental health, it's there's so many components in there. So that's what we offer to our clients when they come to our treatment center. We also opened up, I think this site opened up maybe 4 years ago, the Recovery Resource Club. And the club is truly, it's where our girls trudge. It's 2 miles from Warm. So they trudge from Warm to here and back. And they do their trudge class here where they walk through the steps. Um, the clubhouse offers AA, NA meetings 7 days a week, all hours of the day. We have that on our Facebook page and on our website as well. Um, we also offer sober services. We can connect people with housing. We have our transitional housing for men. We have transitional housing for women. We're getting ready to open up a rec building in the back within the next 6 months, a place just for people, a sober hangout for people to come and just play pool or bumper table,
Awesome.
ping pong, all the things. And so we're constantly growing because we're seeing the need to have not just the treatment side of it, but the supportive side of it. So okay, you got sober, now what? Because there's still going to be nefarious things that are out there waiting to tempt you, even at the gas station. I mean, things that we don't think about, are or we think are harmless, are waiting for someone that struggles, that they may not know. They may get over alcohol treatment and then they may pick up kratom, and that starts a whole nother path for them because that disease process is still there, if that makes any sense. Because the way that we try to teach people and how they understand it is substance use disorder is a disease process. It's like if you had heart disease and you didn't take care of it, if you're not managing that and you're not taking care of it and taking the steps to have a healthier heart, then you're always going to have a heart attack waiting or something like that waiting in the shadows for you. And that's the same thing with substance use disorder. Hope I didn't get off on a whole big long
Oh, that's
tangent, but
great. No, that's awesome.
um
You talked about the services you all offer, which are vast, right? You
vast.
talked about the inpatient services that you offer in Henderson, Bowling Green, and Litchfield. You
Mhm.
talked about what did you call it, the Recovery Center?
The
Where
Recovery Resource Club.
Recovery Resource Club, and that's where you are at, and it's on Second Street, I believe.
It's on First at
First Street.
437 First Street.
Got it. They're on First Street, so that's where you offer the AA and NA meetings, and it's so just essentially just a sober hangout for people that
Mhm.
are in the recovery process. Yeah, that is
It's
fantastic.
and we're kind of a resource hub where we collaborate with other partners here in the community. Where just on Monday we did AIDS testing, we do HIV testing, we do Hep B, Hep C testing. I mean, we'll do lots of different things where we collaborate with other entities in town. Domestic violence awareness. We'll work with people on that. We do expungement clinics. So there's lots of things that happen here at the club, not just the meetings, but it's also just a place to come and say, I need help. Where do I go? And we go to work and plug them in.
That's great. That's awesome. So it sounds like you all have a lot of community partners to also outsource different services. And then you also started hitting on, just, the substance abuse being a disease. I think that's interesting that people don't
Mhm.
realize. I mean, are you comfortable talking more about that? Like,
Sure.
yeah.
I think, and I didn't understand this even growing up because alcohol is legal in our society, it's become such a social thing for most people, and it's just socially accepted. And not everyone struggles with alcohol. Not everyone struggles with drug use. Not so. This isn't. It's not an everybody thing, but it also doesn't. You're not disqualified from getting the disease process of it. just because you can have a beer or two. Some people go through traumatic life events and they use that as their coping skill or their their band-aid, so to speak. Substances can become something where, okay, I'm going through pain, so I'm going to numb that pain with drugs or alcohol. And what we try to do here is educate people is that there's other ways to cope. There's other ways to, because life is going to life on you. Stress is going to happen. Traumatic events are going to happen, and trauma is trauma. My trauma may look totally different than your trauma, but teaching people and equipping them with the tools to make healthier decisions versus saying, you know what, I I can't think about it, and so I'm just going to go drink until I get to the end of the bottle.
Mhm.
And that's where that's some of the things that we see in our treatment center is, you know, the coping skill is just not there, or the healthy environment is not there. The supportive systems aren't in place for them. And that's what we try to offer people and teach them on, this is, life is, it's just going to be what it is, and it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, but, how do we deal with those storms when they come? And being prepared, like we're prepared when a storm hits. We have weather alerts and things like that, and
Mhm.
that's the thing is that most people don't have, and it starts with younger kids too. Is that we're not equipped sometimes as youth to know how to cope with life when life happens on life's terms. And so, just teaching people those tools to be better equipped, so that they can live healthy lives and make those decisions. Like what you said, you've been alcohol free for, you know, how many days, how many is
2.5 years. Yep.
2.5 years. So 2.5 years. I mean, that's amazing. And just, and seeing that it wasn't an easy path either.
No.
And you're not technically diagnosed as an alcoholic,
Mhm.
but I mean, it can be hard because we're just so used to it. It's been so normal in our society. And so just teaching people a new normal.
Yep.
And then um and how to make healthier decisions. I feel like I just went on a whole big
No, it's great. It's
tangent.
like, you talked about kind of the expression of the disease can happen in different ways, and the cause can
Mhm.
be for different reasons, and the substance abuse can be for different reasons, whether it's just, whether it's specific to trauma or stress management or what
Mhm.
have you. I know personally for me, I just, I can share my story a little bit, but mine was due to life, right?
Mhm.
You know, grown family and stress of work and those type of things started piling up, and then I used it for as a stress management, and also during COVID. And I think that during that time, this isolation and different things, it was easy um, to develop those type of habits. So it's, started there, and then it just kind of slowly escalated, and then didn't realize it was having an impact on my life until I had someone close to me that was going through recovery, and I made a kind of a declaration that I would do it for them. And then when I stopped, I realized that I actually had a problem with it myself.
Mhm.
So it was a big eye opener, and it took some work and attending meetings and that type of stuff to kind of work
Mhm.
through that. So, anyways, it's hopefully sharing that, my personal kind of testament on kind of my when it developed for me. And even though I didn't realize it was something I was struggling with, yeah, I was, and just didn't know it until I tried to stop. So,
I
uh,
think it's so courageous though to be able to say, "Hey, I'm struggling and I need some help or support." And I feel like society has taught us that that's a weakness, and it's actually not. It's such a strength to be able to say, "I need help and I don't know what to do. I can't do this on my own." And it does take those meetings and learning and understanding and just seeing it from a different lens, because I think that I look at the women that come through our program and I'm thinking, you are so courageous because, I mean, you just think about it. I would go to church camp for a week and I was ready to go home. Like I was done with those people. I was burnt out. I mean, I had enough. you know?
Uh-huh.
And I look at these women and they come to our program and they're living in like a group setting for 6 months or more. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I would be like, I need you to go away. You know? And not only are they doing that, living amongst people that are still dealing with themselves and dealing with their traumas and dealing with their past and dealing with, detoxing and all the things, I mean, I'm like, you girls are my heroes. They're my heroes because I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. I mean, I could if I was, if I was made to, but they inspire me on a daily basis because I'm like, I get to go home with my family every single night. I leave here and I lock up and I go home and I hang out with my family. And sometimes I'm dealing with things, at the office, but it doesn't ever bother me because that doesn't feel like work to me. But, you know, they don't get to go home and they're very limited on the time that they get to spend with their family because they're having to really meet themselves where they are, and that sometimes is so incredibly hard, because you're missing life while you're trying to get your life back in order. And so I just think that anytime that you admit that you're powerless over something, um, it takes a lot of courage to do. And um, I think when you probably, like you said, you didn't really see that it was a problem for you. You thought, well, I'm doing this for them.
Mhm.
And, when you step back, you start looking at the economic impact it had on your family. You start looking at the emotional impact it has on you and your family as well. And you see, there's so much to be said about being able to have control over your emotions and being able to have control over your response. And when you start drinking alcohol or using substances, you no longer have control. You've given that alcohol the choice to make those decisions for you. And I think that's where it's empowering is, yes, I think people would look at us and say, well, you all are normies, right? That's a word I've heard before. And I'm like, I don't consider myself normal now that I've been in this realm. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I think we all struggle with something, and being able to admit that we need some help and some support and those extra resources, I don't feel like is a weakness. I feel like it's an incredible strength and it's super brave.
Yeah, the more I've learned, and you look at people that you typically that you view as strong or powerful, it's typically not the ones that are have a shell. It's typically people that are vulnerable, and they're
Hmm.
and because vulnerability takes courage and it takes strength to do that. So those are
Hmm.
the people that typically, when when we are admiring people. Um, it's typically not the ones that are shelled off and standoffish, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's people that are vulnerable, and it takes vulnerability to admit that you're not perfect and that that you're struggling, and that you need some assistance. So it takes a lot of strength and courage to do that, and anyone that does that is, like you said, it's not a I don't view them, at one time I think I did, but
Hmm.
anymore I don't view that as a weakness or a negative. It just is. And anyone that steps into that process to improve themselves, in my opinion, is a very strong, courageous person. Uh,
Absolutely. Well,
so
and then you have to meet yourself.
yeah,
Sometimes the man in the mirror is the one it's the worst critic, and so having to really see yourself for who it is, it's like that's hard, you
hard.
know.
It's hard,
Yeah.
and most of the time, and depending on personality types and how you were raised and your upbringing, and I think it's really common, especially in, in kind of this Midwest Southern, Christian Catholic households. What we can see in the mirror sometimes, we don't really like what we see, right?
Mhm.
So I know I struggled with that personally and can only speak from my personal experience, but for sure it's really tough.
Well,
Don't
we can excuse it too, don't you think that you can excuse it sometimes because you're like, well, I'm not as bad as them.
Yeah, 100%. It happens all the time. You hear
Yeah.
it's easy. It's, I don't drink as much as they do. I don't smoke as
Yeah.
much they do. I don't inject myself with as much as they do. It's really easy to compare, and it's like, no, it's not a
Mhm.
comparison game. And one thing I learned quickly when I, quit drinking was, hey, it's not about, you can't do something that hard for someone else. You have to do it for yourself. And
Mhm.
it has to start with me, and I have to focus on myself. And the more I compare and look at other things, the harder this is going to be. So it's like, let's just look at myself, stare all the ugliness that you see of yourself and start dealing with it. And then you realize that, hey, it's really not that bad, and that there's a lot to love inside, and that you're worth it, and that you are all strong or courageous, or whatever quality that you value, right? And start telling
Mhm.
yourself those things, and that self image starts to change over time. I don't want to, it's awesome stuff. I want to get
Yeah.
more into you guys, though. I know I've
Yeah.
talked a lot about kind of my story, but so people that are listening, right? We've talked about the services you all provide, and then now we've kind of gone into this little bit deeper dive of addiction and the disease process of addiction and substance abuse. So some people that are listening, that are hearing this, and that are curious about whether or not they're struggling with it, or whether or
Mhm.
not your services could help assist them or a loved one. What does that journey look like for someone to know when to come see you all at CAR or some similar organization?
Um, I would say, one, I feel like mental health is something that it's really hard to talk about. So I feel like if you feel like you're struggling in your mental health and you're using substances to kind of cope with that, like maybe it's, you're depressed or you're anxious, or there's some kind of cognitive impairment or something like that, that would be a time to reach out. Because when you reach out to the club, to the resource club, that's exactly what we are. We're a resource. So at that point, we can have a conversation and decide, is long-term treatment something that you need? Is it intensive outpatient treatment that we need to help get you a referral to? So, we kind of go to work in that regards. Once you contact the club, or you say, I feel like I need something, but I just don't know what it is, then we can chat it out. If you feel like you are super dependent on a substance to cope, and there's so many substances out there. I wish we had a whole another hour I could talk about these things, but I mean, not a lot of people don't realize some of the dangers that are out there. It's not just alcohol and meth and heroin or fentanyl. It's not just those things, but it's also things like kratom that are being abused. There's spice that's making a huge, K2 spice or whatever is making a huge THC. The dab pens, those are making its rounds. Even if it's nicotine that you're really struggling with and you need some help or some support, we help plug people into those resources. If we don't have it here directly, we can refer out. Um, if they're having financial struggles, that's another time to reach out. Because a lot of their money is going towards something um, that they're using, right? If their health is deteriorating, if not just their mental health, but their physical health, relationships, if those are starting to decline, or if you're starting to isolate yourself from someone, that's a time to reach out. And the holidays are huge because people are financially strained, especially right now in our economy. Everyone is stressed, and you have the holidays coming up, and people are either lonely, they're struggling with isolation, they're struggling with all those things. So, you know, um, that would be a good time to reach out. If they're having if they're making some risky behavior choices, if they're driving while impaired and they see that and they know that while they're sober, they're looking back and going, man, I shouldn't have done that. Or, they've made a choice while they were inebriated. Um, so any of those risky choices, if they're making those right now, that's a good time to reach out to us. And like I said, we can plug into so many different resources, whether it's long-term treatment, short-term, or if it's just getting someone a sponsor and plugging them into some of the meetings that will be appropriate for that person. We offer parent and spouse support here as well. So, like Al Anon type meetings, if you have a loved one that's struggling and you just don't know how to deal with them, there's groups for that we have here at the club. So there's so many different, you know, if if you have someone that's struggling and you don't know how to help them, reach out. I love to plug people into those resources. And I get lots of calls of my son or my daughter is struggling. What do I do? Um, and so usually when that happens, I'm usually like, well, you need to go to our Al-Anon meeting, because that's very eye-opening for people too, so that they can understand where they're the enabler, or where they're not supporting their loved one the way that they should.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as reaching out, there's never a wrong time. Um, it's just really, I think honestly, the hardest part for most people is just getting up the courage to reach out, to just say, do I need help? Because you never know unless you ask. And there's so many resources out there, because some people see like Warm or they see MARC, because those are long-term recoveries. They're like, well, I don't need that. Well, you may not. And that's okay, but we can kind of, you know, plug you into somewhere that would be supportive for you, whether it is mental health services, because sometimes that's just what someone needs, is they just need a counselor, or they need mood balancing thing, medication to help them. There's all kinds of resources out there that we can plug them into.
So you all offer,
Um,
do you all offer the mental health counseling, or do you, is that outsourced?
we outsource that. We do have a mental health counselor that comes on site
Mhm.
to and sees our girls, or they go to their actual counselor's office. But we have lots of resources there. A lot of people that we collaborate with, great community partners. Um, so if any kid out there right now is trying to figure out their career path, we're needing more mental health counselors. Talk to me. I'll help them get plugged into that as well. But yes, we have lots of community partners who are just so fantastic. And I don't know if you saw this, but Henderson just recently earned our Recovery Ready community title.
Oh,
So that means that we're basically a lighthouse for people in the state of Kentucky. There's 32 counties that are recovery ready, and we're one of them.
that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So,
awesome. That is very cool. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, it sounds like to me that if somebody is, I mean, as you listed a laundry list of things, but if you're
mhm,
struggling with any of those things, or really just curious if I may, benefit from these services, it sounds like it's as simple as just giving a phone call, right? Or coming
mhm,
down to the resource center and visiting you or someone that works there
mhm.
to learn more. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, because we do have so many things that we can offer. And even here's another thing that I didn't mention, but we also offer transitional housing. So for people that are trying to transition back into, you know, um, I call it a slow transition into society. So it's teaching, allowing them to live in a um, basically it's cost effective for them. It's $110 a week. They can live at our house. Our transitional houses are beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, they have to do budgets. They have to hit so many meetings a week. We have a lot of people that'll transition out of the jails and come to us, or they'll transition from a recovery center. But it's just a safe, sober place to live until they feel comfortable living on their own. Because some people just aren't ready. Or confident enough in themselves to stay sober if they lived alone. So this is a really great way to help them transition back out. So that's another resource that we offer as well.
Wow, so much. You guys
Mhm.
you're doing a lot of stuff.
We do a lot of stuff. We
Yeah.
go into the schools. I mean, we do so many things just because it's so important. I think that, you grew up in the dare in
Yes.
the dare era, and that's kind of, still around, but we're finding that kids really just need some more um, real life touches, and so that's something that we've been offering as well. So we offer so many things, because I think when some people hear Warm or they hear Recovery Resource Club, they're like, oh, I don't know if that's for me. But we have so many things here to offer people, even if it's just coming here for something fun. Like we do fun things, uh, bread baking and ornament making and all kinds of fun. We do all the fun things too. So,
Great. That's awesome. So a lot of services that you all provide. Um, and it sounds like all people need if they feel like they're struggling or a loved one or just want to learn more, they just give you a call. And all that information will be included at the bottom of this video. So
mhm.
all you guys listening or watching this, just make sure to check that information out. If you're curious or have someone that's struggling or you're struggling or just want to learn more, just give them a call or check out their website, check out their socials. All of that will be at the bottom of this video. So be sure to check that out to learn more about what they've got going on. Um, Success stories. I know there's got to be a ton, but you're sitting there and I'm sure there's a story that or a situation or um, that kind of hit closer to home for you or hit you in the feels, if you will? Or
Yeah.
do you have any of those stories that stick out or that come to mind?
Oh, I have so many. I'll start with the girl that I work with because she's pretty amazing, actually. She moved here to Henderson, got caught in the drug scene, dealing heroin and shooting up heroin, doing all the things. Um, and now, she's like, oh, she's the manager of all of our transitional properties,
Wow.
and just is really a great inspiration. Like she's getting her, life is she's doing life on her terms now and not on someone else's terms. And that to me was just so empowering. Like I love coming to work every morning because she gives me like that. She's smiling, she's happy, she's sober, and and she's helping others become, to stay on that path as well. I mean, I've got story after story that I could tell you. And I just love what I do. I love what I do. I love seeing people get those wins, getting their lives back. I love seeing that, even when life happens, because it does, for some of them, that they know where to go because this is a safe place for them. It's we've built this like little community and this place where now when I go out to, like I'll go to Rotary or I'll go to Lions Club and I tell people what we're doing at the club, they're like, "Can I come too?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course you can." So it's not, it's becoming a place not just for people in recovery. I feel like we're all recovering from something.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like if it's not drugs and alcohol, maybe we're recovering from just emotional, maybe we just, emotional downfall or something. I don't know, but I feel like we're all recovering from something, and it's just a supportive system is what we're trying to build here. To, and we say this is a big saying at Warm. I'm going to love you back to life. I'm not going to love you to death because that's not where I want to put you. But I'm going to love you back to life. And so what we do here is I, we don't drug deal, we hope deal. I give people hope, and then love them back to life because everybody is going through something, and so just loving them where they are, meeting them where they're at, and then helping them see their true potential. I think that's really what my biggest mission is for me, is just to let people see their true potential, and that life is can be so much fun. You just have to kind of figure out how to dance, and not everybody's a great dancer, and that's okay. Some people fumble and they fall, and but just get back up and keep on trying, so
That's great. That's awesome. What a wonderful story about your coworker and just a good sentiment on it. As you said, you got to dance the dance, right? We're all dancing the dance of life, and like you said, we're gonna misstep, we're gonna fumble, we're gonna fall, but it's all about getting back up and keep trying, right? And not giving
yeah,
up and not, succumbing to the difficulty and the challenges of the dance that is life, but just keep moving till you can't, right?
yeah.
Um, that's awesome. Um, any because I know we've covered so much and I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to kind of cover anything that you want to cover. Um, is there, as far like parting things that you think would be helpful for someone considering your services or things you wish everyone knew about CAR? Is there anything around that? Like one thing that you wish people knew that maybe we haven't covered. I know you've covered so much, or just any last parting words about what you do there, or the services you provide, or anything like that.
I think just maybe the biggest thing is just that, um, if you or your loved one are struggling, um, they're not a bad person. They're sick. They're in a sickness that they may, like I try to think of it this way is, I'm such a hard head sometimes. Like I'll get sick and my husband's like, why don't you just go to the doctor? And I'm like, because I don't want to, like, and so I think that sometimes is the case with recovery is, you know, people may not be ready just yet to get well. Um, but they're sick and you just have to love them where they are and continue to love them. And you may have to love them from a distance for a while, because the behavior is is because of a disease. But eventually, um, whether they have to go to treatment or whether they choose to go to treatment, eventually, hopefully we get them some help and get them where they need to, give them those tools to. I guess what I'm just trying to say is that they're not a bad person. They're not bad. And that's the thing that I feel like sometimes that that I think I had that stigma with people is like, just stop doing that. And I didn't understand that you can't just tell someone to stop having a cold.
Mhm.
And that's the thing with addiction is that you can't just tell the person that's struggling. And I try not to use the word addict too much because I feel like it has a negative connotation. But someone who's struggling with substance use disorder, they're not a bad person. They're just, and you can't just tell them to stop doing something, because it's just not that easy. They have to have steps and treatment and a care plan per se, and they have to have a support system. I mean, you think about like when we all had COVID, you either had to go to the doctor or you had to wear a mask or you had to, um, hunker down or whatever, like you had to. It's the same concept. I wish more people knew that addiction is a disease process. It's not a choice. It starts with a choice. It can start with a choice, whether you pick up alcohol and you can't stop or whatever. I mean, it can start with that, but at that point, your brain is hijacked, and so your loved one is just they're just sick, and if they need help, let's go to work. And there's things that we can do to help them get help. But they're just not a bad person. I don't know. I don't. I think that was a long way to get to that point, but
It's great. No, I
I went
think
down a yellow brick road. But they're not a bad person. They're just, because addiction can happen in so many ways. Like, I mean, heck, you could go have oral surgery and get prescribed something, and then tomorrow you don't know you do not know how that's gonna play out. Maybe Percocets are not your drug of choice. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe Percocets though started that process. Maybe heroin's not your drug of choice, but maybe you had a big surgery and fentanyl was the first thing that you got exposed to and you can't get off of it because your body tells you, the brain is so tricky. And that's the thing is like with addiction, it's a disease process of the brain and we can't control how that works, how that plays out. And that's why there's so many things that are involved with the treatment process is that, of course there's the mental health component, but also there's the behavior component and there's the coping, there's so many things that go into it because you have no idea what your brain is doing per se. Um, and so I don't know what else I was going to say about that, but
that's great. Hey, I
that
think
was
to summarize it, to bring us back to Oz from the Yellow Brick Road,
yeah.
I think it's simply that the point what I heard was that just because you struggle with substance abuse disorder, it doesn't make you bad, right? It
Mm-mm.
just means that you have a disease, an illness that needs treatment, just like any other illness or disease does. It's stuff we learn in school is about the opioid epidemic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to opioids. Um, and even though they're prescribed and they're healthy, right? There's an addiction and this addictive component that becomes almost impossible to resist without some sort of intervention
Hmm.
that you all provide for those individuals that have that addiction, because eventually it goes from there. They're taking the hydrocodone. Next thing you know, that's not strong enough. So then you start going down the rabbit hole of,
Hmm.
heroin and all of the other, um, opioids there. So anyways, I think it's a wonderful point. I think it's a stigma that gets put on people that struggle with this disorder, and it's important to know that you're not bad, you're not less than, you're just struggling, and you have a disease, and just like any other disease, like you would with the cold or COVID or what have you, go get some help.
Yeah, go get some help. And there's so many different ways to get that help. Like there's so many options to treat. Um, we don't have to send you off anywhere. That doesn't necessarily always happen that way, but just to know that one, where do you go to get help if you feel like you're struggling? Call here. You can call the clubhouse, or you can stop by and come see us. And I can and I think part of that too, I think part of it is that, because we are from a small town, we worry about what are people going to think. And here's the thing is it's 100% anonymous. No one is going to tell your business, not anyone that works here. Nobody's telling your business unless you tell it. And, just helping you get those tools so that you can feel comfortable with, getting that help and being healthy again, so come by here if you need help. If you have someone that's struggling and you need help with whether it's Casey's law or we help with so many things. And so just call or come by here or ask for me and we can meet on a time when you feel more comfortable. It's all I want people to feel comfortable enough to just say, I need help or I have a loved one that needs help and what do I do? Um, and I can plug you into those resources. Now, I cannot drag you there, nor can I drag your loved one there, but I can give you the tools and support you along the way if that's what people are needing. And I love seeing those success stories. I love seeing people, get their family back, get their loved ones back and have that healthy relationship because it takes a lot of time um to understand all the nuances of it, you
Mhm.
know.
That's great. That's great. Um, Speaking of people getting in contact with you, what's the best way for people to do that?
They can email me, and it's carrie.gentry@rrchrecovery.com. They can call up here to the clubhouse. It's 270-212-0116. It's weird that I know that number because I can't remember anything else. Um, and if they call up here or they email me and I'll email back and then I can, we can kind of go from there. But emailing me is pretty quick because I email back really fast.
Great. So I'll put the phone, email, and then Carrie, if there's any other way, I'll be sure any way that people can get a hold of you will be included at the bottom of this video. Uh,
Perfect.
so not a problem at all. But Carrie, I really appreciate your time. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about what you all do. There are a lot of things that I didn't even know you all provided, even being familiar with the services there. So it's great to learn that. I'm super excited for other people to learn about it as well. But thank you so much for what you do. You all are doing wonderful work there. If you are listening to this and are struggling or feel you or someone else are struggling, or you're just curious if there's any resources that could help you, or you just want to check it out and help with a really great cause, reach out to the number at the bottom or go visit the address that is at the bottom of this video and check it out. But Carrie, thanks again. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.